mentioned he's a football coach, so he also goes by the nickname Coach, and so he has a long history with that as well.
Which one am I using?
Just use this one.
Okay, very
Speak
good.
close.
Nope, throwing stuff. Well, good morning, everybody. I appreciate everyone being here this morning. I don't know if you came because you thought I was going to give you a break on your taxes or not, but we'll talk about that. But that's not exactly what I do. But I thank you for this opportunity, and Dell and Bill and all the folks that have grown this over the years. It's become certainly an iconic event each week. Café in Tampa, and so I appreciate the opportunity to be here. So I really wanted to talk a little bit today about what the Property Appraiser's Office does, what the Property Appraiser's Office does not do. There's a lot of misconceptions about those things. I will, as a shameless plug, I'll let you know that in your bags, two things. First of all, if you carry that with you, you'll never be hit by a bus because it's pretty bright. But in there, there's an invitation. Next week, Wednesday, we have our third annual State of the Market. I know a number of folks in the room have been there before. It's a great opportunity to see some of probably the most connected as well as knowledgeable folks in the real estate market throughout the region, and particularly here in Hillsborough County, as well as a nationally known economist, will be here for the third time, Ryan Severino, that can really talk about sort of where we are and where we're going in terms of the state of the market in Hillsborough County and the state and nationally as far as the trends that are going on. So I think we have about 400 RSVPs already for the Cuban Club. They'll be free. It's free, so that's awfully good. That attracts people. There'll be pastelitos and Cuban coffee, so that makes it even better. But it's from 8 to noon, and if you look at it, the panel discussions are going to be, I think, incredibly informative. So I'd encourage you to do that. Also in there, I'm going to kind of go through the schematic here of what it is that the office does. That's in there as well if you want to follow along. So the Property Appraiser's Office, literally we have two main jobs, constitutionally or statutorily. And I will tell you that the Property Appraiser's Office is highly regulated by the Department of Revenue in Tallahassee. So you'll hear things, I hear it all the time about the office and what we do and what we don't do. But I can tell you that our property, the values and our job, number one, is to evaluate all of the property in Hillsborough County. There are about 560,000 or so properties in Hillsborough County based on the market. And then also to evaluate any exemption applications for ad valorem tax purposes that people would submit to the office. And once we do that, then we report those values, and it's based every year on January 1st of a given year. So when you receive your notice of proposed taxes in August, that will be based on January 1st, 2024. So in essence, we're historians from that standpoint. We report all that information to the taxing authorities. Now the taxing authorities are the City of Tampa, School Board, Hillsborough County, and the like, special taxing districts like the Aviation Authority, Children's Board, the Port, those kinds of folks. Once we report that to those folks, say the City Council, to Bill and the folks he works with, then they're the ones that actually set the tax rates based on their projected budgets for those given years. We don't do that. There's no handshake. We're independent of that. We track the market based on our opinion of what the values of the property are, and as we know, property values have soared during the time that I've been in office. But we can't artificially, and we don't overvalue property or undervalue property. We base it on the market. And so I had someone say to me, gosh, the property values have soared, it's your fault. I said, no, Tom Brady had more to do with it than I did, to be honest with you. So, and we report that then to the taxing authorities, and the taxing authorities set the tax rates, or something, a lot of times we hear the millage rates. Interestingly enough, they have those hearings, and Bill will probably tell you they're probably the least attended. Somebody will come and yell at them more about potholes than they will necessarily the millage rates. Probably more people should attend those things as well. But they'll base that on the budget. Then they give that information back to us, okay? Once they decide what the tax rate will be for a given year. Generally it stays the same. Sometimes they ask, like in the case of the school board this year, they put a millage increase on the ballot because they feel like they need an increase in terms of revenue. I will tell you, as another aside, one of the things that we did to be completely transparent and accountable to folks and allow folks to make their decision on these kinds of issues is that the day after the school board, and this I'm going off track a little bit, the day after the school board approved that millage increase proposal, we put on our website, I had my IT folks tee it up, so that each of you can go on our website, can type in the identifying information for the property, your folio number, what have you, or a search so that you can find that. And it will tell you based on last year's values, and as soon as we finish up this year's values, which will be very soon, we'll flip it over to the new, the new values, so that you'll be able to actually look personally okay, based on an additional mill for the school board, this is how much it's going to cost me in terms of taxes next year. My thought was you're going to hear a lot of information, certainly at Tiger Bay today we'll hear both sides of the issue. Is this way it's going to allow folks to personally decide how they feel about that. So if you look at it and say, well, it's another $150, I feel like that's okay. I want to, I have kids in public schools. Maybe I decide that the $150 is worth it to me to help fund teachers, that kind of thing. Or it could be just the opposite. You feel like, government has enough, or what have you. But I thought that was an important thing that we were able to do. It really outside the purview of the property appraiser's office, but something that we try to do to be as a public service going forward. So once that information, or we received that information back from the tax authorities.
If you held the mic.
I held the mic, okay.
I'm not supposed to be your mouth.
You want me to sing a song as well?
That would be nice.
Okay. That's my brother and my daughter. I don't want to run everybody out already. Okay. Can you hear me better? All right. Do I need to start again? No, I'm not going to do that. So, I'll do it better the second time. So, once we receive the information back from the taxing authorities as to what they've set the tax rates to be, then we send out the dreaded trim notice or notice of proposed taxes. How many of you received a trim notice from me last year? How many of you actually read it? All right, I'll trust you. Okay. If you didn't read it, it's probably because the top of it said, this is not a bill, right? Well, that's a pretty good indication that I'm not sending bills. The tax collector does that, the one they write badly about in the Bible, not the property appraiser, okay, just so we know. But what it is it literally is everything that's going to go in ultimately to being your tax bill that the tax collector will send out in November. So it's a very important document, and it's going to have some different columns there. So there's a lot of information on it. It's going to include something called the rollback rate. So basically, that would be what if the taxing authorities were to receive the same amount of revenue that they had the year before, what the rate would be, how much given the fact that if, each year the market changes, goes up or down based on the tax rate, how much revenue they'll have the following year and what have you. It's important. At that point, we really kind of kick into high gear. We'll get 2 million page views, on our website, lots of phone calls and those kinds of things. We want to do everything we can. Listen, tie goes to the property owner in Hillsborough County, at least under my tenure. So we're going to work as hard as we can to make sure we provide the information. We're going to work with folks. Each and every year, we're going to receive somewhere, there's a thing called the Value Adjustment Board. Once we send out the trim notice, okay, there's a 25-day period in which folks can, if they disagree with their value or perhaps an exemption denial, that they can contact us or they can file a Value Adjustment Board petition. We try as best we can to avoid folks having to end up in the Value Adjustment Board process. If they do, that's okay. There are about 3,000 in any given year of those out of 560,000 properties. 80 to 85% of those are withdrawn or satisfied before we ever get to the process of going through the Value Adjustment Board process. Because again, we want to work with folks. We're not in the revenue business. We don't create revenue, okay? We track the market. And as we know, the market activity over the last decade or more has been remarkable during my tenure. Sorry about that. We've done the best we could to be fair and equitable because that's the job that we have to do. But at the same time, like I say, we want to work with folks, and we do. And when it's said and done, again, tie goes to the property owner. Okay, so during that, so for the 25-day period after the trim notice goes out, folks file the Value Adjustment Board petitions. That goes into September, and then we start to work with folks as best we can on trying to adjust numbers. Again, we make numbers. We defend them to the extent that we think they're right. There are opinions, but I think folks that have had dealings with our office realize that we're not in an adversarial relationship. And in fact, when I took office, we were in a meeting very early on, and somebody said to me, well, we won this case or that case at the Value Adjustment Board. I said, we don't win or lose. We're dealing with our constituents, the special interest of Hillsborough County, 1.5 million people, 560,000 properties, they're the special interest. So we don't win or lose. We work with the folks as best we can to make sure that we get it right. Once that happens, then the tax bills actually go out in November. If you pay it early, most people pay through their escrow. And that's another thing that's interesting now is that folks will come to me. And this happened the other night as an aside. I had to run to Publix right before they closed. My daughter had bronchitis. So of course when I'm enjoying something on TV, it wasn't a Rays game because they're not so enjoyable as much as they were last year. And my wife said, "You got to run to Publix right now because your daughter has bronchitis and her prescription's ready." Okay, so I throw on some shorts and I run to Publix, and the pharmacist is looking at, he's looking up my name and he says, "Oh, I know you, the former pharmacist that went to Tampa Catholic told me about you. You're the one that raises my taxes every year." I'm just here to get the prescription, but let me go ahead and explain. So I started going through the whole thing with him, right? So here we are. There's a lady behind me and she hears it. She says, "Wait a minute, you can lower my taxes?" I'm like, "No, not exactly." So I get that every day. That's okay. So again, one of the things that's happening now is that folks will and we all have seen this. I mean, my mortgage went up a couple $100 last year. I should be mad at myself, right? It wasn't the taxes, it was insurance, because we know that a lot of people pay that through escrow. And so sometimes they're confused because we're seeing that everybody's being squeezed at this point, as we know. So again, come November, that's when the tax bills are due. And those are sent out by our friend Nancy, who didn't get an opponent. Not that I'm mad at her, John, thank you. And then the tax revenue is collected by the tax collector, and the tax authorities hopefully spend it the way, where's Bill? Hopefully the way that everybody should be good. Fill those potholes, Bill. So that literally is the property tax process. Not just in Hillsborough County, but statewide. There's 67 of us property appraisers, and it's pretty much the same throughout the state. So with that's the process. I really want to answer some questions because I think that's even more important here this morning. And again, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate this opportunity. Look forward to it each and every year. And Dell, you're going to handle the question and answer. He's going to the ball spot.